All right, guys, Ryan D. ZZP here, and I got my new partner,
Randy O, ZZP.
That's right, guys. So today, we're here to talk to you about wheels, tires, and all that sort of fun stuff, so you get your very own ZZP wheel guide. So the first we want to start off with is just a little general information so we're all on the same page. So there's a few very important things that you need to know when either looking for aftermarket wheels or even other OEM wheels. There's usually 3 or 4 different specifics about a wheel that you really need to know when making this decision. First thing that you really want to do is what people refer to as the wheel diameter. So that's the part that goes all the way around. Some people refer to it as rims. Technically, in this case, it is actually the rim of the wheel. So in this case, it is correct.
Damn dog, where you get the rim from?
That is what's important when you're choosing tires, choosing what's going to fit on your car, other things like that. So when people say, oh, I have 17s, 16s, 15s, 20s, 21s, that's what we're talking about the diameter of the wheel.
Correct.
The next thing is your width. That would be this way of it, the front to back essentially, from what sits from the outside of the car towards the inside. This really helps with, getting wider tires on there, getting skinnier tires if you're looking for skinnies. And that overall is going to affect the weight of the wheel in many cases too, depending on how they're made. And then the last thing is probably one of the most important things, which is a little difficult for some people to understand, is the offset. So the offset of the wheel is the amount of space the back of the hub where you mount the wheel is from the center of the wheel. For instance, like plus 38 is 38 millimeters toward the front of the wheel. That is 38 millimeters from the center of the actual wheel itself. So if you cut this wheel right down the side here, down the width, right in the middle, some that matches up directly, that is 0 offset. The further you go out this way towards you guys, that's positive. You get negative offset when you're going back the other way. So a car that has a negative 30 offset on it, that hub is real here, and that wheel is going to have a real deep concave look on it. And so that's going to be really what you're looking for, as far as the general basis. So Rand's going to come with a few more technical details like your wheel pattern, center hub, things like that.
So with most of our platforms here, we are looking at, let's say Cobalt, for example, we're looking at a 56.1 hub bore and a 5x110 PCD spacing. When you look at that, like Ryan was saying before, you want to look at the true center of the wheel. So if you have, say, an 8-inch wide wheel, the true center of your wheel is going to be 4 inches, right? Typically, when you have more of a negative offset wheel, that's when you get wheels with a larger lip as well. That's a little easier indicator to look for when you're looking at negative versus positive offsets. Being that we went through the Cobalt here, let's go to our W bodies.
Yeah.
Our W bodies are 70.3 millimeter hub bore, and what are they, 5x120?
So they're the 5x115 on the W body cars. Guys, PCD is basically this center bolt pattern here. That's your things you'll hear for, people refer to them as bolt pattern or PCD when you're looking for your wheels.
Yeah, and basically that is just the space in between the actual lug studs in the car. If you measure from center to center, it'd be 110 millimeters for the Cobalts, 115 millimeters for the W bodies, and 105 millimeters for the Sonics and Cruises. And obviously 5 meaning that the car has 5 lug studs, right?
So guys, so that's another thing, and just to give a good list of kind of what we're looking at, if you have a W body car, your bolt pattern in a more modern sense is going to be a 5x115 bolt pattern. Your Cobalt and Delta chassis car is going to be a 5x110 bolt pattern. They also come in 4x100 for you base model guys.
That's true.
Then for either Sonic, you have your 5x105, same with the Cruises as well. And for your ATS 2-liter and non-Vs, you have another 5x115. That's why she's kind of cool, because you can put Cadillac ATS wheels on a Grand Prix very easily. They fit right up perfectly. Same center bore, same bolt pattern. But then for you ATS-V guys, you have a 5x120, same with the Camaros as well. That's a 5x120 is kind of a very common GM muscle car pattern overall. GM really likes to use that bolt pattern. It's one of these things that we kind of talk about a lot here, like why does everyone just make the same bolt pattern? Everything would be much easier if they did.
It would. But
they don't. Various companies like to use various bolt patterns for their cars. You'll see, like for instance, this Regal here, this is the Regal GS wheel that we're using as an example. This is also a 5x121, typical GM stuff. Now, as far as choosing an aftermarket wheel. This is where things can get a little complicated. Obviously, OEM wheels, there's various websites that give you the OEM wheel specs you can kind of go off of. We like to actually either measure, or there's a great website called willtheyfit.com. Make sure it's willtheyfit.com, not anything else. Bad time there, boys. So if you are looking to see how much something will poke out or stick in, or how much inset it'll have, that is when you want to use that website to put in your aftermarket wheels you're looking at and your OEM wheels, so it will physically give you a picture of the difference. But also there's a lot of different types of wheels. Randy, what kind of different types of forging and things like that wheels are there out there?
So realistically, there are 3 that most people know about, 3 that are used. You have your drop cast wheels, which is where you physically just put molten metal into a mold, and once that is set, they post-machine it. Then you have a flow-formed wheel, which is a similar manufacturing process as the drop cast wheels, but there is pressure involved as well. Then you go into fully forged wheels, which are meticulously made in a way that you are monitoring your temperature as well as pressure, basically in a type of like vacuumed chamber, to make sure that the entire wheel has the exact same grain structure. Typically, when you look at, say, aluminum's the best way to look at grain structures and stuff like that. There are 2 pieces of grain of the metal that fall over each other. The smaller grains that you have typically is a lot more tensile strength. The easiest way to look at that is, I mean, most manufacturers just go ahead and put it on their website, but you can always ask the manufacturer. I'm a big flow formed guy. It's kind of right in the middle of, your price points, and everybody wants baller wheels, right? We all want HREs, we all want Advans, but if you are looking for something that's within your budget, definitely look at the flow formed line of wheels.
Absolutely. Don't cheap out on your wheels. First of all, usually there's the big thing is between imitation, or what's called rep wheels, and then your real wheels. It's one of those things that usually when companies knock off designs for the wheels, they're doing it cheaply just to make a buck. So they tend to not use the best forging methods, and they tend to be heavier than the original wheel. They tend to have a lot less strength overall, so when they have a failure, the failure is a lot larger. Instead of like a wheel bending, like an OEM wheel or a reputable wheel, it will totally break, and you can damage your car, put you in a lot of danger, have big accidents, et cetera, et cetera. So we always definitely encourage you to get a good quality wheel that's within your specific budget. So again, there are good brands like Enkei. That's a lot of one that's really light. For instance, the Enkei RPF1 is a very, very nice quality wheel that's super light. Then you have other lightweight wheels that can very easily fall into a very inexpensive budget. It's also used wheels too. A lot of people change with their wheel setups. They go for a lot of wheels, so they may have good quality used wheels. You can absolutely, change up and grab from them for very good prices.
And specifically speaking about cars that are going to be used on track, be it a road course, autocross, drag racing,
absolutely,
you really need to think about, wheels do have a life expectancy as well.
Yes.
So like people that, use the same set of track wheels for years and years and years, I think it's great, get your use out of them. But when you start seeing little hairline cracks and, you hit a curbing going a little fast at Gingerman or something like that, that's when you really need to think about, like Ryan was saying, the quality of wheel that you're purchasing versus, your safety on track. You really have to balance that thought process.
Absolutely. And so guys, too, another thing that happens commonly, depending on the weight of your car, that also may decide on what kind of wheels you want. A heavier car on a lighter wheel, eventually all the weight on your car is riding on this wheel, so eventually you may get wheels that bend like that. We have cars like our heavier cars, some of the Tesla guys that rode course, some of our ATSVs, things like that. They put a lot of strength, a lot of weight on these wheels and tires. So occasionally you may get one that bends, which we'd absolutely encourage you to get that fixed as soon as possible when deciding on your wheel, whether it be an OEM wheel, aftermarket wheel, etc. So make sure to do that. So all in all, guys, this is going to be our major points of what we're talking about with the wheel guide here. Make sure that when you're looking for wheels, whether it be to clear brakes, Don't be afraid to break out the tape measure, get a few measurements, get every measurement you can to decide what wheel you can get. Something else too that I want to mention is the design of the wheel will also impact your brake fitment.
Yep.
Brake fitment is very, very important when coming to especially newer cars that have Brembo calipers, new cars that have very fat front calipers or very skinny in the rear ones. So you may have to go to a staggered setup and have 2 different wheel sizes or have used spacers and things like that.
And if you're, worried about your brakes clearing and stuff like that, there's a couple of, nomenclature things you can look for online. If you look for a high disc face or a low disc face, if you're shopping on Yahoo Japan or something like that, looking for wheels, they have low disc and high disc faces where, the style of the wheel can be the same, but they physically cut the backside of the spokes to fit larger brakes.
There it is.
Just think about that. And also going back to the, the strength and the weight of the wheel, we've had it a couple times, especially with slingshots and stuff like that. This, less unsprung weight is better for the car.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna make more power, the car's gonna be more responsive. This is the easiest way to free up horsepower in the car.
Yes, guys, unsprung rotational weight is huge. A wheel, you'll physically notice on a dyno or anywhere else that the wheel, your choice of wheel will absolutely make a difference in the power that the car actually puts to the ground. So overall, guys, just when deciding for a wheel too, obviously it's hard to say what wheel will fit every single kind of setup. There are different things, sometimes the inner dimension of a wheel is slightly different. Sometimes the spoke design is a little bit different.
And the suspension that the vehicle's on. If you're running stock struts, you're not going to be able to run as wide of a wheel as you would be with our ZZP coilovers. So.
Exactly. So overall, guys, there is a little bit of homework you'll have to do, a little bit of measuring you'll have to do too. Something else I want to talk about is spacers. So guys, we have all seen them before. Wheel spacers. You can get them on, whether it be eBay or Amazon, any specific sites. We highly encourage if you're on stock threads or stock studs for any car, no more than a 5mm spacer. Adapters. They have their place, and sometimes you got to use them. Still don't really encourage them because it's just an extra thing that could possibly fail. If possible, you want to get extended studs for your car, and then you can run pretty much any size spacer you really need to at that point. But spacers essentially artificially give you lower the offset of the wheel. So if you have a 5mm spacer on a 40mm wheel, that essentially is going to give you a 35mm offset because it's adding material to the back of the actual hub of the wheel. So, for instance, if you get a 10mm spacer on a 40, that makes it a 30. So keep that in mind when you're choosing a spacer, because essentially, to understand what you're doing, you're essentially giving the car a false negative offset or lowering the offset of the actual wheel. So that's why if you get a 20mm spacer or 20mm adapter, you're giving yourself 20mm less of an offset. So that kind of changes things a little bit too. So keep that in mind when deciding for what you're trying to do for wheels. Do a lot of research on the wheels that you're buying. Don't just buy the first thing that comes off, that you see that's really cheap, just because it looks kind of good, But you want to get something that looks good, performs well, and does what you really want from the vehicle.
With that being said, guys, we want to know what you're running on your cars, and if you have any questions or concerns, or you just want to know what we're running on our cars, drop a comment below. This is Randy O at ZZPerformance.
And y'all know who it is. I'm Ryan D at ZZP. Feel free to hit us up at customer service at ZZPerformance.com if you have questions on wheels, what we're running. Some people a little secretive with specs, but guys, we're more than happy to help and get you guys where you want to be, and get your cars looking good, performing well, and doing whatever they need to do for whatever application you're doing them in. All right, you guys have a good one, and we'll see you next time.